It doesn't matter how much you want something, life sometimes finds a way to put that to bed. That's bad enough, but it's 10 times worse when you tease that a video game is real before it's snatched away again. I mean, it's just a toy, so you shouldn't worry too much, but whatever. Let's pretend it is important and move forward. I'm Simon Miller, and this is 6 massive games that almost existed, but didn't because life hates you. Number 6, Star Wars 1313. Whether or not Star Wars 1313 would have been any good is up for debate. It's so easy to whip your clothes off and get excited as soon as you hear a new Star Wars game is on the cards, but that doesn't always result in success. We could sit here and list a bunch of failures from that franchise that took away a little piece of our soul. Connect Star Wars, for example. What the fuck was that? 1313 was a little different because it wanted to separate itself from other games we were used to. The idea by LucasArts was to stay away from force powers and magic to focus on a young Boba Fett. This ragamuffin would be more concerned with shooting people than waving his light sword around, and on paper it all looked very adult and dark. People like adult and dark, so 1313 had the attention it so craved. If you need some evidence, go and watch the first trailer and reaction from E3 2012. Nerds everywhere busted their guts while finding their Jedi dressing gowns in the cupboard. And then Disney closed LucasArts. It was a surprise anyway given the history of the studio, but to do so when something like this was in the works was just an extra kick in the teeth. Finally, Star Wars was going to offer something different, and then it was killed with no thought or regard for anything else. You could say Disney turned to the dark side, but I won't do that because it would make me a dick. Today we have to wait and see what EA has up its sleeves, but given what they did with Battlefield 2, don't hold your breath, especially as if you do, you'll die. Number 5, Silent Hills. We talked about this in a recent video, but here it is again. The greatest game to both exist and not exist. How does that make any sense? Games are stupid. But yes, as we know, PT was released in 2014, a secret tech demo for what Silent Hills was meant to be. That was the reveal anyone who solved its puzzles was rewarded with, and it sent the internet into a frenzy. Not only was PT really good, but Kojima's name was attached to the project, and that was enough for many, even though it would have probably resulted in 3/4 of the game being cutscenes with Norman Reedus. When Konami and Mr. Metal Gear fell out though, that was it. The publisher had no intention of carrying on with anything that had Kojima's name in the title and took Silent Hills and fired it out of a cannon. Now yes, this was the equivalent of taking a bunch of cash and burning it while laughing maniacally, but it's not my business. If that's what they wanted to do, good for them, as long as they had their clothes on. What's worse is that it also seemed to kill the series altogether. So much hope soon replaced by the bitter end. Maybe it'll get picked up again one day, but don't expect that anytime soon, and if it does, probably don't trust it. Number 4, Half-Life 3. Because come on now, do you really think this is still going to happen? And even if it does, will it be anything like what the other Half-Life games were? Of course not. It's been 11 years. You literally grow up in that amount of time, and if Valve did try and release anything, it would just explode as a company as millions of gamers' expectations crumbled into dust. If nothing else, there's no experience that could be offered here which will ever make people happy, so death is probably for the best. It would have to be the best game ever made to put smiles on faces, and it wouldn't be, especially because Half-Life and Half-Life 2 are vastly overrated. Comments below. Number 3, Rainbow Six Patriots. The reason everybody liked Rainbow Six Patriots is because during the first trailer you saw a dude get given a cupcake from his wife, and that was a bit like real life. Then when a bunch of terrorists busted in and attacked, you had your own what-if simulator where hopefully you could play out some heroic fantasies. Given that's all what games are really, it made sense and plenty of people were excited, even if it was drowning in the usual Ubisoft nonsense. This escalated when it cut to you in a van with a bomb strapped around your chest and a detonator in your hand. Forget that press R2 to prevent detonation kept flashing up on screen to destroy any kind of immersion. This was the French company going all out to capture intrigue, and it worked. If you like tension and a game that dared to push the boat out just a little bit, that was here in droves. And then came the twist. Breaking the fourth wall, the camera and presumably control switched to an attacking SWAT team who could see all this and made the call that a suicide bomber was a serious threat. Straight away, that created quite the digital choice. You knew everything from both sides. What do you do to make sure the outcome is a happy one? As ever, this hype was dumped into the bin as whoever was playing it earned a PS4 trophy. Video games, ladies and gentlemen. Before events took another step up. As our heroes reached the unlucky victim, they realised the device could be remotely detonated, which left them with only one choice: to pick up the human bomb and hurl him into the sea. Now, watching this today is actually hilarious, mostly because of how quickly everything happens, but the concept was well thought out and added a new layer to shooters, which by this stage were a dime a dozen. Could Ubisoft develop one that actually had a heart? The answer was no. Before long, Patriots got cancelled because, according to the studio, the tech they were working on for the next-gen machines was so vastly superior they thought it would make all this look dumb, which makes no sense. Instead, Rainbow Six Siege came along, which, while good, was just another multiplayer shooter. Great. Number 2, Agent. Given that Agent has been in discussion since 2007 and was once a PS3 exclusive, I think we can all agree it's never going to see the light of day. And if it does, who would want to play a PlayStation 3 game in 2018? No one wanted to do that a decade ago, let alone now. Somehow in all this time we only ever got a handful of screenshots along with the info that it was set in the 70s and focused on espionage and spies. Other than that, you tell me. Rockstar is good at keeping secrets at the best of times, but Agent feels like an anomaly at this stage. Maybe it was just one big troll. Maybe it didn't live up to expectations and failed to meet the house's bar of quality. I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. Which is what makes this weird. Agent surely would have at least been interesting like most Rockstar titles are, but you can forget about it now. Worry about Red Dead Redemption 2 instead, which will likely be the best game of the year. Number 1, GoldenEye 007 HD. We all know that nostalgia fuels everything nowadays. If you don't have a childhood memory that can be attached to something, it means nothing, and due to this, the past will begin to disappear as new generations die out. Think about that for a while. What we haven't forgotten is that back in 2008, Rare was developing an HD remaster of its Nintendo 64 classic GoldenEye that was meant to be released on Xbox Live Arcade. It was pretty exciting at the time, as idiots like me decided this is all they wanted from that calendar year. As long as we could play this, screw everything else. And then Nintendo got involved. Bringing up copyright issues that derailed the entire thing, the problem was simple. Microsoft couldn't come to an agreement with Nintendo to the point everyone involved decided it would be better to kill the project dead. So they did. There was plenty of info out there too. For one, you were going to be able to switch between the original visuals and the shiny new ones at the touch of the button, and it would run at 60 frames per second. Hopefully the controls would have been sorted out as well, because as we know now, the C buttons were the worst idea in history. Amazingly, Rare was even going to add to the multiplayer, including new levels and the option to set everybody's height in case those oddjob assholes return to cheat their way to victory. Given how games work, all titles that have any significance from the past should really get such treatment and not be stopped, because they will vanish from existence. It's why we need YouTube videos like this to keep the dream alive and sing the proudest of songs. Nope. I don't know either. Now do remember that all this content is supported by patreon.com/SimonMiller316, and there's a link on the screen and a link in the bio, so please go give what you can, like, share and subscribe, leave a comment below, and I will talk to you again soon.